Hey, this is Stacia, and I'm going to share a tournament game I played at the first annual Joe Young Memorial Tournament held in Akron, Ohio. And this is a 3-day tournament, and it's being held in honor of Joe Young, who was an incredible national tournament director, a figure in the local chess community and the national chess community. And he did a lot for chess and was a coworker of mine and a colleague and someone I looked up to for the last at least 2 years. And unfortunately, he didn't die from COVID. He did get COVID, but he didn't die from COVID. He actually died from lung cancer. It was very tragic and unexpected. So anyway, we thought what better way to honor him than to hold like a classy, like slow time controlled tournament, hire Boyd Reed, like probably the best tournament director out there to run the event. And okay, well, anyway, of course I wanted to play in it also. So I did play up a section. My rating was 1738, but I didn't want to play under 1800. I think that was the section. So I played up and under 2100. I mean, my theory is I want to beat my first expert, but that's not going to happen if I don't play any. So I played under 2100, hoping to play some experts. Actually didn't get the chance this tournament, but I did play some 1900s. So this is one of them, and I opened with the move 1 to e4. Okay, what could be better than that move? d6, and looks like my opponent was planning a PIRC defense. So I took the center, g6, a rather flexible move, and knight to c3. So here I was expecting knight f6, and my opponent played c6, and I was like, what? Like, what is this? And it's kind of funny because I did play a game in Parma just the week before against Darrington. Not sure if I put that one on my channel, but I probably will. Where he played a system kind of like this one. Now, I can actually pull up that game, so I think I will do that to show you guys really quick. Hang on a second. All right, my studies and Parma. Okay. Yeah, and let's look at this because in this game, d6 and knight to f6 right away. Okay, that's more of like what you see in a PIRC defense or PIRC defense, as they say. And here I felt pretty comfortable even after seeing the move c6. And I went f4 and he went queen a5. And I guess like in the black community, they used to play this opening a lot, at least locally. And they called it the slow system. And it's pretty interesting. And the point of the queen is actually that it helps to get e5 in. But Darrington didn't play it that way. He played g6, which is actually, as far as I can tell, kind of a mistake. And I got a very good attacking position this game. So when I first saw the PIRC defense, you know, in this game, okay, we're back in the tournament game. When I first saw these same moves, I was like kind of excited. I'm like, wow, I might get like a really good attacking position and I'll have lots of time to figure it out. So f4, but he played this move, d5, still not committing the knight. It's like he did not want to commit that knight, and he didn't want to develop his bishop either. Both are surprising. But yeah, I was facing a whole new monster this game that I have never seen in my life. And I have to tell you, when this happens in a tournament game, especially a slow time control game, it can be a bit rattling, I guess. I guess I'd rather it happen in a slow game, assuming that I could figure it out. But guess what? I didn't really figure it out. So, okay, D5, or E5 rather. Yeah, I don't think I want to play this way. I mean, you probably can play this way. This would be fine. So probably I would need to take, I guess, and white has an edge here. It's kind of a weird game though, isn't it? Yeah, I guess I could do this. I don't know. But I thought E5 was more principled. Like, let's take more space in the center. Black is offering it to us. Let's accept it, and indeed it is the best move. And then he went H5. Okay, so, D5 was weird. H5, I was like, what? Like, why? Why on earth would you play H5? Like, develop your pieces. And I was pretty excited too, because I'm like, look, this knight can't even develop. Like, like I stopped it. So, and this knight can't develop easily either. And like, where's he gonna go? Like, there's no this, there's no this. Like, I was feeling really good about the position, but when my opponent was blitzing out these moves like D5 and H5, I had the feeling that he knew exactly what he was doing. And yes, this is called the Gurgenidze system, which I had no idea during the game. I'm just like, my opponent has lost his mind. I have no idea what he's doing. And what's worse is I don't know what to do. But yeah, so the idea of the system is going to become clear. Okay, knight to F3 I played. Knight H6, another weird move. But I did see, like, hey, that knight's going to come to F5. All right, so bishop E3. And I figured if knight F5, bishop F2, bishop G4. I kind of wanted to play H3 and stop that move, but I did not. Okay, so E6 and H3. Okay, so until H3, I think I was doing fine. I was like, okay, I don't know this opening, so I should just follow opening principles, develop my pieces, and castle, right? The only problem is that I wasn't sure where I should castle. In this position, I felt like if I go kingside, I don't know what he's going to do. He might start, planning to open up this side and possibly castle this way, and I thought I might walk right into an attack. And having never faced this before, I was a little nervous about that. So I didn't think I should commit my king just yet. But if I don't commit my king, what should I do? Wasn't really sure. And I thought queen to D2 might be a move. Yeah, I'm starting to think. Why did I play H3 anyway? I'm not exactly sure, but I guess I thought, oh, I think originally I wanted to put my knight or my queen on E2. I think I wanted that square. Yeah, but H3 is actually a mistake. So if you do want to pause your video, if you haven't yet, and see why H3 is a mistake, go ahead and do so now. Now, I will tell you that I missed this, and my opponent, my 1900 opponent, also missed it. So I don't feel that bad, I guess, but I do feel bad. So after bishop takes and bishop takes, okay, I did see queen h4 check, and I thought, hey, bishop f2, no problem. But there is a problem. My bishop was actually doing something, and black could grab this pawn. So I could have lost a pawn right here, right out of the opening. The computer actually says position's equal, but I should have an advantage, you know? So I think h3 was just a careless move on my part. So, okay. Yeah, and maybe I didn't see the check when I think about it, because I remember reviewing this after the game, making a note that when my opponent plays a pawn move, I should really pay attention to what could come through, you know, the diagonals or files or whatever is opened up. Same with clearance, you know, like when a pawn moves, you really should be aware of what it is leaving behind. And I mean, this pawn moved and left these squares behind, so we should think about jumping in those squares if we can. But it also left this square behind. That means a piece can now go there that couldn't before. I think it's very important to, you know, pay attention to pawn moves and what they do, because pawn moves are a change in the structure, which is sort of like the layout of the game. All right, anyway, so this is not correct. Knight f5. And of course, bishop f2 is what I was planning here, because it sort of dominates the knight, or at least keeps him under control. Okay, so let's talk about the opening for a brief moment. This Gurgenidze system, like, bless you. Yeah, the idea is you play d5 and induce the move e5. If e5 happens, you put all your pawns on light squares. And you definitely include the move h5. Why do you include h5? I'm so glad you asked. Because the knight cannot develop this way. And if the knight develops this way, it's kind of in the way of things. So why not put it on h6 behind the pawn? If you put it on h6 in front of the pawn, and I'll go back to demonstrate. If you do this, and the knight jumps to f5, then you do have to worry about the move g4. g4 could happen, and that is going to kick the knight and disrupt the black setup that they want. h5, on the other hand, make sure that the knight on f5 is permanent. There is no g4 anymore. It's very unlikely that g4 will be any help at all. And not only that, but these pawns are very, very restrictive. And the move h4 could come in just to stop any pawn breaks on the king side. And this is played later in this game, as you will see. Now, also, one last thing is, if you're going to put all your pawns on light squares, I think you know who would not like that. This guy. The light square bishop would be shut in or locked out and would be like, hey, what's up? So the whole idea is to put that bishop outside the pawn chain and exchange him off for a knight. That way you don't have to worry, and the bishop you have left will have incredible scope and incredible flexibility. So there you go. That's what I learned about the opening. So after queen d3, knight bd7, I went bishop to e2. And this actually is a mistake, but it's a little bit hard to understand why. I reasoned during the game, well, honestly, I didn't know what to do. I'll just be honest with you right now. I was like, should I castle? If so, which way? Should I try a pawn break? Like, I didn't know what to do. And I decided I would go c4 and improve my bishop, which I kind of thought maybe I could put the queen on f3, put the bishop on e2, and maybe c4 could happen. And the queen could help guard g3 and help with g4 potentially. Now, I know now that going for g4 is not the right plan, but during the game, I was making stuff up. The problem with bishop e2 is that I was right about the c4 pawn break and wrong about how to accomplish it. What I should do is put the knight on e2. Now, I didn't do this in the game because I was like, wow, this knight's terrible. You know, like, what am I doing? So I didn't do that. But the knight actually is useful, guarding the f-pawn and protecting the g3 square, because this knight very well may try to jump in there. So keeping a hold on that square is not the worst idea. And now we have full reign to play the move c4. So I didn't find that plan, and I played the incorrect bishop e2. So black is better here already. And don't worry, it gets much worse. So, okay, my opponent played a6. I think the reason he played it is, well, first of all, as part of the plan, right? Like, put the pawns on light squares. But I think he wanted to potentially play c5 and stop my pieces from utilizing that b5 square. So he took another light square away from me. And here was my idea to get c4 in. Knight to d1. He played c5. And I played knight to e3. Now there's a problem with knight e3. So if you want to pause and find why, go ahead and do so now. Yeah, and now it's uncovered why knight e2 is so correct, because this is the other way to do it, and, well, maybe knight b1. Knight b1 is probably better. I want to see what the computer says about this move. Okay, it hates it. Queen b6. Yeah, I was thinking about queen b6 during the game. I was. But black's better here. The problem with this plan in knight e3, which I thought was a good square for my knight, where I could trade off the f5 knight directly, is that I block the defense of the pawn. So black takes a pawn, a center pawn. So yeah, it's inexplicable the way I played, but it's not though. I'm just learning that psychology plays such a huge role when you're playing a chess game, and your mindset matters. Like, your knowledge is not enough. You need to have the right mindset. And my mindset was, oh my God, I don't know this opening. You know, I don't know what's going on. I'm so confused. You know, I hope I don't blunder. Like, and that was not the correct mindset for a chess game. But I will say also that knowing your openings is helpful. I think I always feel a little panicked when I face a new opening, especially a weird one like this one. And so perhaps it's not too surprising that I made some pretty questionable moves. But okay, it's just a pawn. It's just a pawn. So there's a lot of game to be played, and since we know that we're worse, you know, I can try to play for complications now. And just look for ways to break open the position, and maybe that could potentially increase my chances to hold or even trick my opponent and win the game. So I wasn't about to resign yet. He brought the knight back calmly to f5, and I played a4. Yeah, this part of the game was hard. I didn't know what to do, but I knew one thing. I did not want to get blocked in to where none of my pieces could move. So I gained some space on the queen side. The computer hates this move. It does want c4 right away. If c4, I actually was a little bit worried about queen a5 check. But I guess I could just go queen c3, the computer says. I don't know. I can't imagine willingly going into this, you know? Now it's saying d4 or d takes c4. I would think d takes, no. Let's try this one. It is guarded by the knight, after all. Yeah, so I didn't like that. So I was actually planning a4, a5, and then maybe c4. So let's see what I actually did in the game. I went a4. Okay, and then I castled kingside. And he played king to f8. I mean, wow. But, you know, king to f8 makes a lot of sense if you stop and think about it. I think he wants his rook to stay here and continue defending the h4 pawn for now. If I should ever try to break the position open, he could take with that pawn, and then his rook is going to be lined up on my king side. So just having this rook here is good for him. So castling and putting the rook on f8 would be kind of ridiculous. I mean, look at f8, right? You just stare at a pawn. So king f8 with the idea of king g7 and just castle by hand. Just the king can stay on g7, the rook can stay in the h-file, and everything will be, you know, connected on the back rank. So here I played c4. Yep, it is the best move. I need to break the position open. The problem is he doesn't really have to do that. He can go d4. Yep, and once again, wasn't sure what to do. I played a5, taking away queen a5 and knight b6. I thought this was useful. King g7, and now bishop to f3. Yeah, and this was part of my plan with the c4 break. I figured if he did push this pawn, I could improve my bishop and have a good bishop. So that did happen at least. Queen c7. Connecting the rooks? I'm not really sure what that move is. Potentially the queen is, whoops, staring down my king side as well. There's pawns in the way for now, but this could always be a break for black. All right, so I went here, and he took. Now, b4, I was like, oh, I'm so smart. I'm going to go b4, and if he takes my pawn, I can take his pawn. And this should be good. But the problem that I didn't see when I play b4 is that there is, well, a win for black. Like takes, 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 bishop c5, ouch. So after he took the pawn, maybe before he took the pawn, I saw that and I was like, oh no. So I just played king h1. Now I am threatening to take the pawn, but he has time to put a rook over there. So pretty miserable position for white. I don't think I'll show too much detail from here. I actually was worried about knight c5. I thought knight c5 was quite good. Maybe queen b1. Oops. Attack this pawn. But he decided to use a bishop. Yeah, and I just did not know what to do here. I'll be honest with you. Okay, king h2 is a move that flashed on the engine's choices. But king h2 is... Oh, well, I know why. I wanted to play queen e4, and I was like, well, that would lose again, so I can't play that. So I went king h2, but this is also not a good place for the king. Now f6 is a thing. Opening up, you know, there could be queen takes f4 check. And okay. So I tried my best, but I got forked right here. And it was here that I actually went ahead and resigned. I don't normally resign, but the computer says minus 9.5. And if you try to find a way out of this for white, yeah, there is none. Like, I'm going to lose a full rook. I'm down a pawn. This pawn is a pass pawn. This pawn is a pass pawn. These rooks are amazing. This queen's amazing. The knights are amazing. The bishop's good. Everything's good. I guess maybe this bishop is the only thing. But if you look at my setup, I can't really do much. And I would just die a slow death. Or maybe it wouldn't even be that slow. So I did lose this one. It was a painful game. So let's ask the question. I think this is a really good question to ask. Why did I lose this game, and what could I do to prevent a loss like this in the future? And I think number one is that I need to work on my opening some. I shouldn't be completely caught off guard in the opening. It's going to happen. But then also, I shouldn't be blundering pawns in the opening. So I think, as much as I like to sacrifice pawns, I'd rather do it on purpose. So I think another thing would be to pay special attention to my pawns and what's protecting them in the opening, because I seem to have a little bit of a blind spot for that if I don't know the opening and I'm looking at a bunch of other things. And, well, I do know how to play this system now. But I think after I lost that pawn, my position was just bad. And getting forked at the end was kind of like inconsequential. I was already losing. So, kudos to my opponent. I think he chose a really great opening against me. And I think he played a good game. A very interesting game. Not one that I expected. So I did start off this tournament with a loss, but no worries, right? We get back on that horse and we play the next game. So that is what I did. So I got up the next morning, Saturday morning, and I drove to Akron, ready for round 2. So stay tuned. I'm going to post the round 2 game tomorrow. See you then.